Hey everybody, this is Rykard here again, and welcome to another narrated Pokemon Wi-Fi battle. Today's battle is an overused match against a subscriber named Brandon, who I had this match with over Skype. This battle turned out to be a lot of fun, and both of us are using some really cool combinations of Pokemon. My opponent has a very hardcore sand team, and it works extremely well together. Pretty much everything on this team takes advantage of sand in some way, and it is definitely a very powerful team to go up against. On my end, I decided to make a new OU team for the purposes of this battle, using a few Pokemon that I haven't really had the chance to use much in OU since I started battling over Wi-Fi. The first of which is one of my favorite Infernape sets, which is a specially based mixed Infernape. So it has Hidden Power Ice along with Fire Blast, U-Turn over Grass Knot, and also Close Combat to pretty much be like a mixed wall breaker. Then we have Starmie, which is completely offensive. Umbreon, my favorite Pokemon, obviously, a defensive variant. My Attract Rivalry Haxorus, which a lot of you will know from back when I started doing the analysis videos. This is a defensive Gastrodon and a defensive Fortress, which is also designed to deal with Magnezone. It has Earthquake on it in case I do get Magnet Pull trapped. But with that, let's just jump into this battle right now. So to start things off, I'm going to lead off with my Infernape, as my opponent leads off with his Tyranitar. Now, there was a high probability of this happening due to the fact that you'd probably want to get sand up right away, so I was correct in predicting that, and just am free to go for a Close Combat first turn. Now, he does bring in Gliscor here to obviously resist that, but as I mentioned before in the team preview, I am a bit of a mixed Infernape, so I actually have Hidden Power Ice on this guy to deal with Pokemon like Gliscor that would normally wall only physical variants of Infernape. Now, my opponent was incredibly surprised by this, and I didn't think that this was that uncommon anymore, but apparently it is, and this type of Infernape running mixed attacking with a bunch of coverage moves was incredibly popular in 4th gen, so I didn't think it kind of went out of style, but I guess it did. But either way, he brings in a Stoutland right here, and I have to switch out because it's obviously going to be faster than me in the sand, so I do that into my Fortress right here, and then knowing that he's absolutely going to switch out into Heatran right here, I actually pull a double switch. I don't have Volt Switch on this Fortress, unfortunately. So I pull a double switch out into my Gastrodon right here, and knowing that he's probably going to switch out into his own to take the predicted water move, because as you saw, he's on a balloon, so I can't go for Earth Power, just go for an Ice Beam to get some decent damage on this thing. Now, unfortunately, my Gastrodon does not have Toxic on it. It has 3 attacking moves and Recover. So I decided to switch out into my Umbreon right here, predicting him to go for Toxic and just get the Synchronize to get him Toxic as well, which would have been really useful. He just decides to go for the Earth Power to get off some damage, but either way, in this situation, he doesn't really have anything to touch Umbreon, and I'm hoping he goes for Toxic, honestly. But knowing that he's probably going to switch out then if he doesn't go for Toxic, because he probably doesn't want to get Toxic himself, just go for the Foul Play, do a good bit of damage on the Scizor, but the thing that sucks about bringing Umbreon into OU matches is the abundant Pokemon that have U-Turn, and you're always going to have to switch out on that because you're probably going to take a huge hit. Now, I'm assuming this is a banded Scizor. I don't really know, but I'm assuming it was during the battle. So I switch out into my Fortress right here to take that, but unfortunately at the same time that also forces him back into his Heatran, which is a favorable matchup for him, meaning that I have to bring in something else to take this. I thought the Gastrodon switch was so obvious, so I decided to just go into my Umbreon right here. I take way more from that Fire Blast than I was expecting. I'm a little bit more of a mixed defensive Umbreon as opposed to just a fully specially defensive one. But rather than switch out, I actually decided to stay in here and sacrifice this guy because I know that in the following turn he's going to have to switch out if I bring in my Infernape. So I go for the Close Combat, does just under 50%. It does like 44, 45-ish, which is not enough for me to want to go for another one, especially because he could obviously either hit me with a Scald or an Earth Power. So I'm going to go for the U-Turn right here. No reason to just blind switch. He already knows I'm not choiced anymore. I'm Expert Belted. And I just switch right out into my Gastrodon now, as this is the best thing to take any of the moves from this Gastrodon, since my Umbreon went down pretty early in the battle. But either way, I'm just going to continue to attack right here, and I really, really wanted to go for the Ice Beam right here, predicting him to switch out. I go for the Earth Power though. He makes a great play, expecting me to do that, and now on the following turn, knowing that he's probably going to switch right back out into Gastrodon, because this has been happening constantly, I'm kind of on the end of predicting correctly at this point in the battle. Just go for the Ice Beam, and unfortunately that's not going to do enough damage to where I'm able to KO with Earth Power on the following turn. So my opponent is actually going to get up to a very good amount of health now. After going for the Recover, he's going to be back up to about 75%. which is really bad for me because this Gastrodon is just being a pain in the butt to take down. It makes me wish I did have Grass Knot on Infernape, but I figured U-turn would have been a little bit better for utility. However, on this turn, I actually get a crit freeze, which you don't see very often. It was incredibly lucky on my end, but it's really not that big of a deal because Gastrodon has Scald, and as many of you know, Scald automatically melts the ice if you are frozen, so it's really not that big of a problem. He gets frozen this turn. It just gives me a free switch into my Fortress right here, but he's going to melt the ice right there as he goes for his Scald. Going to do a good bit of damage to my Fortress as I get at my Stealth Rock, which I thought was going to be very important, as he has been switching a lot throughout the battle, but I know I need this Fortress for later to obviously deal with the Stoutland, so I am going to have to switch out right here and decide to go out into my own Gastrodon, maybe expecting him to potentially go for a Scald again, but he actually makes a very good play, just going for the Earth Power, knowing that that would actually do more damage to my Fortress anyway. But I was kind of hoping he might have went for a second Scald. I would have got a boost and that would have been really cool, but unfortunately that is not the case, and now is the turn where he Toxics me. However, I really don't know what I'm going to do in this situation. He isn't at enough health where I think he's going to recover though, and I can't stay in, so I decided that the best thing to honestly switch out to in this situation, now that I know for sure he doesn't have Ice Beam, is to go out into my Haxorus. Now, as I mentioned before, this is a rivalry Haxorus as opposed to a Mold Breaker one, and as you can see, we are the same gender. So me going for Dual Chop right here is actually really good, because I'm actually hitting him with some super powered Dual Chops. Now, it would have been probably a better idea to Dragon Dance right there, but I didn't want to risk him switching and the Dragon Dance not mean anything, because if he went out into Heatran, he could have just blocked it completely, because all I have to hit it with is Dual Chop, because I can't hit him with Earthquake because he's on the balloon. But he decides to switch out right here into his Tyranitar to preserve his Gastrodon. I do a good bit of damage to that. Unfortunately though, now that he is an opposite gender as me, these attacks are actually doing only 0.75% of, or sorry, 75% of what they normally would, because of how Rivalry works. It is a gift and a curse at the same time. But then, taking him down to this range of health, and knowing he's probably going to switch out to Heatran, I finally make a really good play, and go for the Dual Chop right here, which is going to pop this thing's balloon, which has been such a pain in the butt. Balloon Heatran is such a good Pokemon, honestly, guys. You really need to try using one out, if you haven't, because it's such a pain in the butt. But finally, I was able to pop the balloon, meaning then the following turn, I'm free to just go for Earthquake, take down this Heatran after all the trouble it's caused me at the beginning of the battle, and now he brings in his Stoutland to try and revenge kill my Haxorus. Now, because Stealth Rock is up, I believe, and also because of Sandstorm damage, I decided to actually switch out to preserve that, because I could save it maybe for Death Fodder later. I know it's only at 3 health, but I could use it as a switch later, which I'm actually going to do a little bit later in the battle. But as you see right here, he goes for return, still doesn't do enough to this Fortress, and I just go for an Earthquake on the following turn, which is thankfully enough to finally take down that Gastrodon, which is really fantastic for me, because that was another one of his Wally Pokemon that I was having a lot of trouble taking down. But he goes out into Tyranitar right here, and I don't want to take a Fire Blast, which is kind of what I thought he was going to do, since he switched that in so confidently, even though he knew I had Earthquake. So I just switch out right here into my Gastrodon to take the Fire Blast. Unfortunately, though, he actually goes for Superpower, which is something I was not expecting, but that's going to be great for me because it's going to lower his physical attack, meaning that if he stays in on the following turn, I'm going to easily be able to potentially take it out with a Scald. However, Tyranitar in Sand with really high HP and special defense can just take special hits like no other. It's impressive bulk, guys. It really is. He's actually able to live that, which kind of sucks because I'm actually going to take a little bit more Toxic damage as well as Pursuit damage. I'm not sure exactly why he was going for that over Superpower or something else, because even though it is Stab, it's still less base power than Superpower. But as he switches in his Scissor right here, I actually take this opportunity to now switch out into my Haxorus to use it as Death Fodder, meaning that whatever move he goes for, I'm going to have an appropriate counter. If he goes for U-turn, I can just switch out into my Infernape right here and just threaten him out with a Fire Blast. And luckily for me, he actually stays in here because he really doesn't have anything else at this point to take the Fire Blast. So I'm going to actually KO the Scissor right here. Thankfully he didn't go for Bullet Punch, but if he did, I would have had a free switch out into my Fortress right here. And then all he has left is the Stoutland, which isn't going to be a problem. And as you see right here, he goes for a Return. It turns out he's not a max happiness Stoutland, but honestly that didn't matter too much. I did have a few other Pokemon on my team to easily handle this, and I found out later by asking him that he didn't have Fire Fang, so he wouldn't have been able to KO my Fortress very easily, so that was really good to know. And I obviously had a full health Starmie, which you didn't even see for the entirety of the battle. So who knows how if that might have been too different if he did have max happiness return. It was just a very sad Statland, I guess. But anyways, that is it for this video, everyone. I thought this was an excellent OU match, and I had a ton of fun doing it, so thank you, Brandon, for this battle. It was a ton of fun, and I really enjoyed the time I was chatting with you and, you know, playing you at the same time. But as I said, this is it for the video, and by the way, just a little end screen time here. Just want to remind you all, you know, follow me on Twitch. I'm trying to stream at least once or twice a week for you all to watch, so that's always really cool. And I just got a Twitter. This was actually something a lot of people have been kind of asking me about, so I figured I might as well just get one, so follow me on Twitter, and I could maybe brighten your day with some ridiculous Rykard posts, and always let you know if I'm streaming or uploading a video if you want to be updated on that sort of thing. So I hope to see you all over there on Twitter and as well as on my Twitch channel. But that is it for this video, everyone. So as always, thank you for watching, take care, goodbye, and I will see you all next time.